What is up? What is up, everybody? Ah, man. I don't know, a lot of stuff going on. Martin Truex coming out and saying he's close to announcing what he's going to do here. Yeah. They announced the LA Coliseum that they're going back there. I don't know. Uh, but that Suarez win, though, that was pretty huge. Huge for Suarez, huge for Trackhouse. Um, uh, all kinds of good stuff going on. So let me know if you guys got any questions or whatever. Let a few more people jump in here. Yeah, so the first NBC deal, I do think it'll probably be better than Fox. Fox sort of shot themselves in the foot, kind of with their pre-race stuff. The actual coverage from the announcers' perspective wasn't all that bad. Now, some of their camera work was kind of questionable, for sure. So, I think Fox's announcer booth was okay. I know a lot of people went Boyer, but when they rotated them in and out, that was kind of cool. But yeah, Fox's camera work, the amount of commercials was terrible. I think NBC will probably most likely be just as bad with the commercials, but hopefully they'll take a cue from how much criticism Fox got and at least do more side by side when they do their commercials or whatever. Um, but yeah, I think they've got a little bit better camera work and stuff like that. So NBC typically, historically, has been a little bit better than Fox on these deals. X Dude 2X, I do think we'll get 16 winners for sure. That is a huge possibility. With 10 races to go, only four more guys need to win, and I think that's definitely realistic, especially given Ryan Blaney has not won yet. And let's look at Ryan Blaney's statistics. He's led 385 laps. He's had 5 top 5s and he's had 8 top 10s. I definitely think he's definitely capable of winning. You've got Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick's been knocking on the door for sure. Tyler Reddick could definitely get another win, or could get his first win. He could be one of those guys. And like Kevin Harvick, if his crew chief or if his pit crew hadn't have taken him out of that race, he had a chance of winning that race. So there's a lot of guys knocking on the door. There's definitely a chance we could get 16 unique winners this season. I personally would like to see 17, to see one of these guys with a win that has not had a great season get knocked out. I think that would be pretty awesome, because I don't know. It just kind of feels weird that a dude that won one race is going to be in the playoffs, and he's just had a statistically awful season, other than that one win. And Denny Hamlin, he's only got 3 top 10s. 2 of those are wins. The rest of his races have been pretty awful. Not to pick on Denny Hamlin, I'm just saying he's not had a Denny Hamlin type season. But he's in the playoffs, and as the if the playoffs started, he'd be up there pretty high because he's got 2 wins, even though he's had a statistically terrible season. So I would like to see 17 winners and some of those guys that have 1 win that haven't had a great season. I'd like to see some pressure put on them to actually have to race their way in, not just with 1 win, but on points as well. So yeah, I would love to see 16 winners, and I think it is possible that it'll happen, but I have no idea if it's probable. At any point, somebody could get on a hot streak and rack up a couple of back-to-back wins or something like that as well. So I don't know. I think they need to make Texas a 1.5 mile dirt track. I don't know about a 1.5 mile dirt track, but I'd like to definitely see them reconfigure Texas. That could be like a second dirt race, since they're going to stick with Bristol, doing the Bristol deal. They for sure need to reconfigure Texas. I don't know exactly what you do. I like the idea that of making it a short track, and if you make it a short track, throw dirt on it, and just make it a basically because racing on dirt in Texas is a big deal over there down there. So a short track that could hold a cup race in Texas and it be dirt, I think that would be just a really really good idea because that's a good market, and that market seems to really like dirt racing. So I think that would be awesome. Tommy the Tree, what's up, buddy? But yeah, definitely Texas as a dirt track in some form, as a dedicated dirt track for the NASCAR Cup Series. I think that would be totally awesome. I think that would be like a really, really good idea. Same way I thought that California, Fontana or whatever, make that a short track. I don't know if they're still going to do that or not. They seem to have backed up off that here recently, but I think that would be a really, really cool idea as well. And we're going back to the. I want to see Deegan punch someone. She's pretty feisty. I wouldn't put it past her. Obviously, I don't want to see anybody doing that on pit road or anything like that. But I wouldn't put it past her. She was pretty close, maybe 2 or 3 races ago with somebody. I can't remember exactly who she got up in their face of, but she definitely, I could see her doing that. And I don't know if you watch any of her Instagram stuff. She's always like working out at the UFC gym or whatever, working on her crosses and her punches and stuff like that. So I don't think she would be any slouch if she got into one for sure. Let's say Reddick goes winless. Would you consider his season a disappointment? And if Truex goes, what are your thoughts on him possibly being bought out by Gibbs? Yeah, that's an interesting point there, Trent. It depends. It's so hard to say what a good season is anymore. That's probably like the biggest thing. So with the new points deal, basically if you don't get a win, it's considered a bad season because getting into the playoffs is considered good. But I think you can still have a good season without winning. But if you don't make the playoffs, it's kind of a disappointing season, right? So in just about every measure, Tyler Reddick has had a much better year this year than he had last year, except he doesn't have that win yet, and he might miss the playoffs. It's hard to say, but yeah, of course, if you don't make the playoffs, it's a disappointment, and if you don't win, it's a disappointment. And I don't want to harp on it again because I know I said something about it for like 3 episodes, but ever since he got kamikazed by Chase Briscoe, his season has basically derailed. Whereas before that, he was leading a bunch of laps, he was contending, he was looking for wins. Now, all of a sudden, he is out of the. Well, he might be the last guy in. Where's my notes? Either way, he's right there at the cutoff line. I think he's one of the first guys out. But his season derailed after that, and so yeah, it was definitely, if he doesn't make the playoffs, I think yeah for sure it's a disappointing season, and definitely if he doesn't get a win, I think he would be disappointed. Now, if Truex goes, to jump to that second part of that question, if Truex leaves, I think that they have already said they want to keep Ty Gibbs down in the Xfinity Series. So I think you got to look at another guy to replace him, and that guy would have to be comfortable knowing that he is possibly just another 1-year placeholder for 1 or 2 year placeholder in a car. So he would have to have extreme confidence in himself that he could get it done in that car if they're going to go with a young guy. But I think this would be the perfect opportunity for Brandon Jones to slide in there because they want to keep Ty Gibbs down there because they don't want another basically Joey Logano situation with his grandson where they move him up too fast. Daniel Suarez, for that matter, as well. He was moved up too fast. Excuse me. He was moved up too fast as well. And you see now Daniel Suarez is starting to come into his own. Obviously, Joey Logano, champion. So I think the perfect guy to stick in there will be Brandon Jones. He brings sponsorship. He's got a lot of talent, and he came in. He was very raw when he came into Xfinity. He has improved his skills, so you know he's a hard worker. He's getting better and better every time he gets in that race car. So I think Brandon Jones would be a good fit for that. Because of how he sounds, I'm just going to say Martin Truex is retiring. A lot of people think he's going to retire, but you can look. They're picking selected quotes. You can basically, and I picked a selected quote when I said he's not retiring, so you can look at it both ways. a lot of guys are saying he's going to do this or that. I'm just going to wait to see what he says, because you can pick any quote and make it look like he's going to stay, or you can make it look like he's going to go. I want him to stay, and I want him to go to JRM, but that's just me, being a fan. I have no idea what he's actually going to do. But if he retires, I think Brandon Jones would be the best fit for that car. If they don't maybe bring a veteran in, like Ricky Stenhouse, where Gibbs could bring Ricky Stenhouse in and they wouldn't be committed to him. So when they're done with Ricky Stenhouse, they could pop in Ty Gibbs. I could see a situation like that happening as well. Next to the wheels are still a story, unfortunately. Yeah, I agree with you. I wish that NASCAR would look at other series that run the single lug. They don't seem to have as big a problem or as many issues as NASCAR. I would love to see them look at those series and take a look at what they're doing as to how they mitigated some of these problems that NASCAR is having. And but I'm definitely tired of talking about wheels and tires, and I wish that NASCAR would look at these other series and see what they're doing as well. Joe Bob Tar Heel, chase format in 2004 is 10 times better than this current format. Win and your end is kind of lazy, in my opinion. I agree with that. Like, if you're going to have a chase format, still make it a combined total of the 10 races. That's a much better format. The criticism of that format was always you use the regular season as a test and tune. Well, that's fair, but you still got to make the chase. So you can use the regular season as a test and tune, but you still have to make the playoffs. So if you're going to have a playoff system, which I still disagree with, the last 10 races being cumulative is a much better version of that. I've always thought just give more points for wins. Just give more points for wins, and that's all people ever really wanted. But then they went to this chase system, so obviously I'm not a big fan of it. That was Lawless Allen. So Lawless Allen was who Haley Deegan got into it with. Thanks, Moulton. But yeah, I've never been a fan of the whole chase system. Do you think Truex would go to Junior Motorsports if they moved to Cup? I think he would be the perfect fit for them, because he would give them a veteran, and if they wanted to do 2 cars, they could bring Noah Gragson in, or he could do a semi-retirement, sort of like Mark Martin did, where he drove half the season, and they put other people in there for the other half of the season. I think that would be a good deal, and it would definitely work with Noah Gragson, because they're both sponsored by Bass Pro. Would like to see Eric Almirola get a win to end his career. I would too, and I really hope he gets one. He's knocked on the door a few times. Ty Gibbs needs to learn sportsmanship. Angus 420, he definitely has some growing up to do. That is for sure. But we've seen a lot of guys who are 19 or 20 make mistakes, so I'm not going to sit there and pound on a 19 or 20-year-old guy for that. But for sure, he definitely needs to mature. Ben Rhodes is a Toyota guy. He would be a good fit. Yeah, absolutely. Ben Rhodes is a heck of a race car driver, and I think he would be a good fit too. But who they put, I would not want to see him go there, because I think whoever they put in there is just going to be a placeholder for Ty Gibbs. Unless they really just knock it out of the park. So, JJ Yaley was a big disappointment. Yeah, for sure. JJ Yaley, he had a lot of hype behind him, and he never got up to the level that everybody thought he would be. But a lot of people have. Either way, still a lot of respect for him for being a big dog in one motorsport and moving over to the next. That's never easy for anybody. So I'm glad he tried it, and I'm glad he stuck with it. He's still trying. So much respect to him. But yeah, for sure, he never lived up to what a lot of people thought he would be. A NASCAR 12-hour road race. I think they're actually getting close to that. I've heard a lot of rumors that NASCAR is fully integrating with IMSA. I know they're owned by the same company anyway, but they're going to fully integrate. So I could see NASCAR being a class in some of these IMSA races coming up. That definitely could happen. So, and Steve Phelps recently came out and said NASCAR is going bold in their future. So I definitely think a 12-hour road course race or just a 12-hour NASCAR race is definitely in the future, or could be in the future. I'm not going to say it is in the future. The 04 chase format was as bad as this one. I'm just not a big fan of any type of playoff format. I like cumulative points. But if you're going to have a chase, which NASCAR seems dead set on, I like it being a cumulative chase. So you at least have some semblance of a, in my opinion, proper champion uh, that you can somewhat compare to other past champions. A lot of aero. Angus 420 is talking about the aero racing. Yeah, aero is still a big deal. I don't care as long as you're in a race. Now that people know about aerodynamics, the reason aerodynamics wasn't a big deal back in the day is because nobody knew about them or paid attention to them. Uh, you can't put that genie back in the bottle though now because people know about aerodynamics. So as long as cars are going fast enough to create really bad dirty air, aerodynamics is always going to be a problem. I don't care what they do to the car. You can't you can't change physics. So dirty air is always going to be an issue. Make the car bigger, smaller, shape it however you want to shape it. There's always going to be dirty air. The next gen car reminds me of the V8 supercars from Australia. That Bob Tarhill said that. Yeah, for sure. That's 100% in my opinion what they based them off of. So for sure, I think they basically just copied it in my opinion, which is fine. It is what it is. That's a great series down there, and I'll watch the mess out of it back when it was on Speed TV. What does NASCAR look like in 10 years, in your opinion? Race format, who's going to have the best career, and the current young guys? Wow, that's a long ways away, but we're definitely going to have hybrid race cars. They'll still be V8s, I think, and they'll still have that sound because that's a big thing. I know NASCAR wants to keep the sound. I know the manufacturers are pushing for the hybrid deal. So it's going to be a hybrid. There's going to be street courses. There's going to be dirt courses. I think it's going to be sort of like you'll have all these different tracks, and that's what NASCAR is going to push as their drivers can race on any surface. It's sort of what they're going to get at, and they're going to talk real big about how great their car is. I think this current car will be changed significantly pretty soon, maybe within the next 3 or 4 years, because I think it's too stiff and it takes impacts in a very poor way. It sends it directly into the driver. So I think they're going to figure out something on how to dissipate some of that energy in one direction or the other, sort of like an IndyCar. If you watch an IndyCar wreck, it flies apart because it's dissipating energy from the impact. I think you will see that sort of in the future because NASCAR's made it very clear that they don't want damaged race cars with their six or 5 minute timer or whatever on the racetrack. So I think you'll see a slight change to these cars as far as that goes. But I think the future of NASCAR is going to be a whole bunch of different tracks. I think they're going to go for a festival, carnival-like atmosphere in these bigger cities, sort of like you saw with LA. And basically, we've got 2 all-star races, and they're going to use both of those all-star races, I think, to try some new things. So I think that's basically going to be your future of NASCAR. I know people hate the hybrid deal, but I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as they think because you're still going to have the noise. You're still going to have it's basically going to look and sound the same. It's just going to have an electric booster for a little bit of extra horsepower. And how they implement that's a good question. SRX kicks off this Saturday. Yes, sir. Pretty stoked about that. That's going to be pretty awesome. Eliminate the chase and go back to traditional points. I think so too. Just make the wins way more than they had made them. I think a win was only worth an extra 10 points back in the day. I wonder what the next gen car will look like with the COT wing. I like the COT wing myself personally. I know a lot of people hated it. It was the only thing about the COT car that I liked. I like that wing, but it is not good for circle track racing because once you spin backwards, it does the opposite of create downforce. It creates lift. So that was a bad deal, but it did look cool. I would like to see it on road courses, but I just like the way it looks. Let's see. We'll see you in South Boston. We'll have a bologna burger eating contest. Well, you're going to win that one, Rodney, because I'm trying to slim down, my man. I just started running again, but for sure I will eat a bologna burger with you. And I will be at the SRX deal in South Boston in some way, shape, or form. So I will be out there. I guess I'll figure out how to tell people. I don't know. I'm scared to have a meet and greet because I don't want to be standing by myself. But we'll figure out something. I'll position myself somewhere that it is easy to recognize me. Probably would need to detune some of the higher series cars to make them last 12 hours or so. Oh, for sure. They would have to do something with the engines. Because right now, I think these engines are built to run 4 races. And they get crazy with how they build engines. They build them to the absolute limit of what they have to do. So they after 4 races, I think it's time to rebuild them. They fall apart. So they would have to come up with a different engine for that for sure. Do you think Brad is just having bad luck, or has he not more off than he can, a bit more off than he can chew by being an owner driver? I think he's just had bad luck, to be honest with you. But like I said, like in my preview, I was wrong about a lot of stuff in my preview, by the way. But in my preview, I said about halfway through the season, you'll see Roush Fenway start to figure it out, and I think that's holding true so far. I know it's only one race and it was a road course, but Roush Fenway was very competitive at that road course, and it looks like they found a little bit of speed. Of course, Brad has got to win, and even if he wins, he still might not be in if 17 guys win a race because of that huge, ridiculous penalty they gave him. Kaltiki, what's up? But he was that penalty just took his whole season is basically a testing tune, in my opinion, for this car. They're probably going to try some aggressive setups. And I think going forward, you're going to see some really, really aggressive, just strategy, aggressive setups, because I think a lot of these guys are looking at 10 races and four spots. You're going to see some guys do some crazy strategy. You're going to see some insane setups that they're either going to be the best setup you've ever seen in your life, or it's going to be the absolute worst thing you've ever seen in your life. So I think that's, I think NBC, part of the reason their coverage is better is they get the second half of the season, and you're going to see some guys just in absolute desperation mode going for it. Let's see. Kevin Harvick, I think people are sleeping on him and writing him off. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think you should never underestimate Harvick because he's 1 win away and he's run super consistent this season. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that his pit crew hadn't messed up and he went up there and challenged and somehow got by Daniel Suarez. If he's in the playoffs, he's a problem. So, and he's proved that every time he's basically in the playoffs, he gets pretty deep. Historically, I think he's made the Final Four probably more times, or is tied for the most times making the Final Four as everybody else. Are you going to have a group meetup at South Boston? I don't know if I'll have a group meetup, but I'll have, like, I guess, a place that it'll be easy for y'all guys to spot me. I don't, but yeah, for sure, I will figure out a way to tell everybody where I will be at, so I can talk to whoever would like to come talk, take pictures, hang out, chat, whatever. Yeah, we will definitely get that going for South Boston. Will John Hunter Nemechek get another shot at Cup soon? He'd be another good one to stick in Martin Truex's car, because I think he's got no fear. I think he thinks he would definitely prove himself in that car. So I think he would be another good one to stick in that car while Ty Gibbs waits to get a little seasoning, a little maturity. He would be a good fit for that 19 as well. I think it's him or Brandon Jones if Truex retires, which, that's who knows what Truex is going to do. I hope he stays personally, but he doesn't even have to retire. What if he just moves on? I think that John Hunter and Brandon Jones would be your best 2 picks. Of the 2 picks, it would be, are you looking more at a financial deal? If you're looking at a financial deal, I think Brandon Jones is a better fit. And if you're looking, I think John Hunter is a slightly better driver than Brandon Jones. I keep wanting to call him Brandon Brown. That's why I guess I kept starting there. I called him Brandon Brown in one of my other episodes when I was actually talking about him. So that was bad, an embarrassing day for me. Do you find and talk to current NASCAR drivers when you're at local short tracks? If I'm at a short track, I'm usually working. So that is hard. That's a hard deal to do. But yeah, I wouldn't have a problem talking to them if I wasn't. Like, if I could just walk around with a camera, I definitely would. Because I know that's what a lot of the people that watch the channel want to see. But so if I wasn't, working on a late model myself, I definitely would go out there and try to at least get a couple sound bites for you guys. But it's kind of a weird deal. Like, I don't want to disrespect the team I'm working for by walking around with a camera while I'm supposed to be working on their car. So it's I just kind of do that as a respect deal. But if I ever get a chance to go to a race, I'll try to talk to as many guys as I can that are going to Cup or aren't in Cup. Just I think interviewing race car drivers, just you never know what they're going to say, so it's always a cool deal. Would you rather win a stage or win the race? Cliff Daniels. Hey, he was going for it, man. It worked last year. It didn't work this year. He's taking a lot of heat for it. So, yeah, he tried it. It didn't work out. Last year was a different car. This year's a different car. So he's learning like the rest of us. But yeah, he's definitely going to get a lot of criticism for that. And probably the worst thing that could happen is he's got 5 weeks off, because we've got the off season, or the 1 off week, and then you've got the 4 race suspension. So that's going to be a long time for him to think about that. And believe me, he's as competitive as anybody. He didn't want to make that mistake as a strategy call, and he's the type of guy that would own it. But so yeah, it's something that he'll look at, and I think that they'll get better from. And losing that tire is also something they'll look at. What went wrong there and how they can fix it. NASCAR has trucks already. When does 1 Series change to the SUV body style? That's a good question. CPO Fast Forward said that. I think there is an opportunity, because NASCAR has already said if they go fully electric, right, that it will be a whole different series. Sort of like it'll be like the trucks, Xfinity, electric, and then Cup. And the electric series, as it currently stands with battery technology, would have to be basically, they would have to run 2 heat races. And I know I'm going a long ways to get to this point, but I think the SUV series would be the electric series, just because it lines up better with everything. Okay, so most people drive SUVs, and aside from race car fans, a lot of mainstream people are all about electric right now. So that would be sort of your trendy, gimmicky series. So if you're going to do a trendy, gimmicky series, go all out. And that would be where you would have to have heat races. So you'd have 2 heat races to set your field, because that's as far as the batteries could go. I do have a little bit of experience with this. The first race car I helped build was an electric car. So you have 2 heat races, and then you would have the main event. So you would have to pair it. The point I was making there is you would have to pair it with another series. So you would have 2 heat races, and then like that other series would run. Let's say they're with the Xfinity series, right? So you'd have 2 heat races. The Xfinity series would run, then the SUV electric series would run. Like if that's how they did it. So I think that if they bring SUVs into the mix, that is an option. Otherwise, probably the Xfinity series, because you've got a truck series, then you have SUV series, and then you would have sort of like the old RC Pro-Am video game for Nintendo. You would have every time you move up, you move to a different type of car. So that could be that. Nathan Urich said you can hate hybrids all you want, but they will be here very soon. Oh, that's for sure. And me personally, I don't hate hybrids. I would like to make that clear. Hybrids just make internal combustion engines faster. So like everybody, when they hear hybrid, they think Toyota Prius. Well, if you hear hybrid, you should think Ferrari, and you should think Porsche, because they have them too, and the ones they have are pretty awesome. So it's just a misconception about hybrids is the best way to put it. They can be used for fuel saving, just like a turbo can be used for fuel saving. But you can also use a turbo to make your car go faster. Same thing with a hybrid. I think, and that's what I try to tell people. I think once you see what the hybrid is, it won't be as universally hated as it already is. I still think Cole Custer, as much as he is my favorite driver in Cup, if he doesn't improve, he'll be out of his ride pretty soon. That's from Moulton. That's a hard one to say. I think he'll get at least 1 more year. I think he's had super bad luck this year. He's had some good speed, and he's had some good runs going, and then just something stupid will happen. I know a lot of people are down on Cole Custer, but if you look at what's happened to him this year, he's actually had some pretty decent speed, and he's had just some stupidly bad luck. So hopefully next year, or maybe he'll break out of it this year, but hopefully he gets out of it this year. Aaron Armstrong, what's up? Is Harrison Burton a bust? It's hard to say. He's not even through his. Dennis Jarvis asked. It's hard to say because he's not even through his first year. If you look at last year with Chase Briscoe looked like just absolutely terrible. Now this year, all of a sudden, Chase Briscoe's killing it. So, or not killing it, but he's much better than he was last year. So you could see the same thing with Harrison Burton. It's just hard to say when he hasn't had a full rookie season yet. So yeah, free Cliff Daniels from Aaron Armstrong. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of losing anybody for 4 races because of a mistake on pit road. Maybe a 1 race suspension, and then if you do it again, it builds up to more suspensions. Like that. That's what I think they should do with the tire deal. Okay, mess up one time, it's a 1 race suspension. The second time y'all mess up, it's a 2 or 3 race suspension, so on and so forth. So I think that would be better. People going off on the Cliff Daniels injustice. Yeah, it's not just him. I hate it that all these guys lose crew chiefs. Like I said, it should be a tiered system. It's just a aggressive rule is the best way to put it. Rich L, what's up? Just a super aggressive penalty for basically missing 1 lug nut or not getting 1 lug nut on properly or whatever's going on with that new wheel that's making them come off. I would like to see Jeffrey Earnhardt get a ride. Man, I would like to see Jeffrey Earnhardt get a full ride in that number 3 car because he did pretty doggone good with it when Larry Mack was his crew chief for RCR. So hopefully he can sign with Dillon Management or whatever, and they can figure out a way to get him a full season. I would just want to see Jeffrey Earnhardt in a full season of a decent car because I'd like to see what he can do. We know he's good at restrictor plate tracks. That probably is in his genes. But I'd like to see what he can do at these other tracks as well. I think that would be cool. I would love to see him in that RCR car. Do you think Honda will ever come to NASCAR? I think Honda is just as likely to come to NASCAR as Dodge. And I think in 2024, we could really see some things shaking up. It's especially if you look at Trackhouse. Trackhouse has got to be the most attractive team to a car manufacturer that wants to come in, because Trackhouse has showed with that. I think they've got the RCR Alliance, but they're outrunning RCR with basically whatever technical data RCR is giving them. And so if you're Honda or somebody, you got to take a look at them and say, hey, what's up, Trackhouse? You want to run Hondas? And I think that would be good for them. That's sort of on brand for them. They like to do things differently, right? So I could see them being the Honda team, whereas I could definitely see Stuart Haas being the Dodge team. 2024 is a long time away, but it's not as far away, as we think. So I could see multiple manufacturers coming in 2024 because we're going to that basically that hybrid engine that I think will still be a V8, because I think part of the deal that as NASCAR wants to miss that is going to be that they will make it a V8 hybrid. That way people are like, well, at least it's still a V8. They're sort of going to split the difference to make people not hate it quite as much. Even though I think once people get used to the hybrid, they'll be like, oh, that thing's cool. I look at the hybrid as an innovation that could make the car, just faster and more efficient and cooler. It's not necessarily going to be a bad thing. But when I think of hybrid, I don't immediately go to Prius. I think of like Ferraris and Porsches. So it just depends on what hybrid you're talking about. TJ Van, where have you been? Is this the new live chat? Haven't seen anything in a few. I've been pumping out the videos, T Van. I don't know. I've been making them. I don't know. I must be out of the algorithm currently. So I don't know how I get in or out of the algorithm. I just make my stuff. But I will be doing. So I guess that's a good a time as any. I will start doing more live streams, and they're mostly going to be on Tuesday. So look for Tuesday to be the live stream day. I might add another one. They seem to be going well, so I might add another one to that. But I'm also still it's not gonna change the channel. I'll still be making the regular videos like always. Just add some live streaming to the mix. I'm late as always, streaming now. Whoop whoop. Yep. What's up, Charlie Tuna? On Tuesdays, most Tuesdays we will be streaming for sure. Tommy the Tree, let's take the electric buggy back to Indy. So our first race was at Indianapolis. and that's where we had our little electric car. And yeah, so I would love to go back to Indianapolis. That's one of the coolest tracks. If you ever get a chance to, definitely go to Indianapolis. That's one of the greatest racetracks on the circuit. Let's see. Hands-free Elon cars. Kyle Busch would have his feet up on the dash with his arms folded. Yeah, there. I mean, don't. Elon Musk is a wild man, so don't think he won't get in the mix. Let's see. It's tough being an RCR fan right now. Yeah, for sure, Dylan Brown. Like, we're having statistically a good season, but neither car is in the playoffs. Man, it's so bad. It's just rough. Yeah, and Eric Jones and Petty GMS, he's having a good season too, but he's not in the playoffs. So improving on finishes and stuff like that. We're just too many people are winning, and we're out of the playoffs right now. So it's hard. It's just hard because it's not like we're having a terrible season at RCR. It's not going well for us in the playoff picture. Has Cindric exceeded my expectations? Winning the Daytona 500, he exceeded my expectation there. But I knew he would be sort of streaky up and down. Trent asked this, but I also expected him to be streaky. But when he's been good, he's been a lot better than I thought he would be. So he's a little bit better than I thought he would be, but I did expect him to be streaky. So I definitely he's slightly. I was big on Cindric, so he's slightly impressed me. But I figured he'd be streaky, and I think in about 3 years, he's going to be one of those guys that I think he'll be up there every weekend. Him and Ryan Blaney, and well, Joey Logano is not that old, so I think Penske's set for the near future there. Do you think Tyler Reddick will leave RCR? I hope not. That's a good question. I don't know. It just depends on what all happens. Who would he leave for? Would Joe Gibbs buy him out of that? Because he's got a 1-year extension that RCR is going to use. So obviously the 19 is the big speculation. Would Gibbs buy out that 1-year extension just to put him in a car for a couple years? Because I think that's where Ty Gibbs is going, is at 19. So that's hard to say. Yeah, I don't know. that's just a big I don't know. Hendrick looks like they're pretty set pretty well for the future. Who would you put Tyler Reddick in over one of those Hendrick drivers? I don't know. That's a hard argument to make, like because those Hendrick guys are pretty good. So could he slide into one of the Stewart Haas cars? That would probably be a better opportunity for him. Because you got Eric Almirola leaving. Would Stewart Haas pay out that contract to put him in the 10? So it's probably looking like Ford would be, if somebody buys him out of his contract, Ford would be the deal. But I hope he stays personally, because like I grew up a Dale Earnhardt fan. So yeah, I don't know. I need to update my dollar store Wi-Fi. I agree with you, Rich. Me too. My Wi-Fi is terrible. T-Van said he thinks Reddick will jump ship. Yeah, I don't know. Like me personally, I grew up an RCR fan. But if I'm Tyler Reddick, I didn't grow up an RCR fan, so I got to do what's right for Tyler Reddick if I'm Tyler Reddick. So whatever is the best situation for him to win races. But he seems to be very loyal, at least so far. Atlanta will be the first track to get its second points-paying race with the next-gen car. I was wondering, what do you think of the first race and thoughts on this one? I think Atlanta put on a good race. The problem is when they wreck, it causes sort of a big one, and tires were a huge issue there. So the big issue with that is they're not going to allow them to have a practice, and tires were an issue at Atlanta. And when you're carrying that kind of speed and you don't get a practice, it's going to be, I don't know, it could be another tire race. So yeah, I hate it that we're talking about that again, but I thought the race in itself was really good. I liked Atlanta. I liked what they did there. They tried something different, and it seems to have worked out for them. So it was better than a lot of other Atlanta races. So I think they did a good job at Atlanta. Molten said, like I said earlier, we need to do something about this racing. Everyone, like they're not, basically everyone racing disrespectful. My glasses are fogged up. I don't know. I can't see today. So yeah, everybody racing disrespectfully is a product of the playoff system, uh, and also just a culture shift. As you put younger kids in race cars, the culture has shifted to be less courteous on the racetrack. I'll put it that way. So it's a two factor thing, but in the Cup Series, I think the bigger shift has been because of the point system. Win to get in, the wins are the only thing that matter. Like I was just, some guys have had statistically good seasons, but they're not going to make the playoffs. I think it's just a two pronged attack. How do you put the genie back in the bottle? Well, there's one thing that late model stock cars do in late model stock car racing that I would like to see. I would like to see implemented in the NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series, and that is if you are a part of the caution. That is, if you cause the caution or are actually involved in it, like not you stopped on the racetrack to avoid being in the caution, but if you're actually a part of the caution, and let's say you can continue on. Let's just get at what I'm getting at. If you dump a guy and he has to go get tires or he's done for the day, you have to go to the back of the field because you were part of that caution. So I think that is the one thing they could do that would calm down some of this aggressive driving. Because if you move a guy for position and he spins around and it causes a caution, and you know you're going to go to the back of the field, then you are going to drive that guy a lot more respectfully. So I think that is probably the biggest thing that NASCAR could do to sort of police people just running through each other. So I would like to see that, and I think that's all you really need to do, and that would totally fix it. It's a rule that they actually already have in place. They just don't have it in place at the higher level. Aaron Armstrong said KFB would have his feet up in the car, but would still be cussing about the car, referring to if he was driving a self-driving Tesla on the racetrack. Pretty accurate, because he just wants his car to be the best it can be. He's a perfectionist as far as that goes. Doesn't use always the best language to get it across, but he wants that car to be perfect because he wants to win. He doesn't care about second place. That is 100% Kyle Busch, and a lot of other guys too. He's just more he's not scared to show it. Trackhouse continues to be the surprise story this season. Championship 4. Well, if you look at the statistics, and that's actually one I've got here, Trackhouse has been statistically the best team. You can flip flop them with Hendrick, but here are the statistics. They have 1.5 wins per driver. Hendrick Motorsports has 1.2 wins per driver. They have led 7% of all the laps that they've been involved in. Hendrick has led 8% of all the laps they've been involved in. They're averaging between their drivers 5 top 5s and 7.5 top 10s. Hendrick is averaging 4 top 5s and 8 top 10s between drivers. The next closest on those deals are like Gibbs and Penske, where they're averaging, Gibbs is averaging 0.75 wins across their 4 drivers. Penske is averaging 1 win across their 3 drivers, and they've both led 5% of the laps. So Trackhouse absolutely could have both cars in the final 4 as long as Suarez doesn't continue to have bad luck, because I know this was a surprise win for a lot of people, but Suarez has actually had a lot of speed. He's just sort of had Cole Custer type of luck where something just stupid would happen. Like the other week, he had a top 5 or top 10 going, and the jack broke. The jack broke in half. Like, I've never seen that in my entire life, and I've watched racing for a long time. So I've never seen the jack break in half. So yeah, so he could definitely be. They could definitely get 2 cars in the final 4. That being said, these other teams, you have to knock 2 of those cars out. So, but the playoffs is just a total crapshoot. So who knows? Let's see. Ty Gibbs is going to the 20 or the 18, in my opinion. If they keep Ty Gibbs, if Kyle Busch wants to retire early, is the only way he's getting in that 18 car. because Toyota has made it very clear that Kyle Busch is going to stay in that 18 car if they have anything to do with it, which I think they have. Clearly, they have a big part to do with it. Kyle Busch will stay in that 18 car until he retires or is forced out of his ride. But Toyota is going to make sure that Kyle Busch drives nothing but a Toyota because that is their guy. Much like GM Goodwrench, Dale Earnhardt was their guy, and they were going to keep him in the GM Goodwrench car for as long as they had to, basically. STP with Richard Petty. They made sure they sponsored Richard Petty until he retired, and they sponsored him for, close to a decade after he did retire, I think. So, and they're still associated with the team. So, just certain things and certain deals, which is kind of why it surprised me M&M's left. The same way it surprised me that Cobalt, not Cobalt, but Lowe's Home Improvement left Jimmy Johnson. But it's a different era, and it's cost a lot of money to run a race car. So I understand that from a financial perspective why they left as well. But I think Kyle Busch will be in that 18 until he wants to retire. So I would look more at the 20 or the 19 for Ty Gibbs. But I don't think they're moving Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell's the future of Toyota right now until they get their other young guys up in there. Corey Heim and Sammy Smith. I'm big on those two. I think if Toyota keeps them in their camp, Corey Heim and Sammy Smith are going to be really, really good, especially when you pair them with John Hunter Nemechek and Ty Gibbs and Christopher Bell. Some combination of that is going to be the future of Toyota, in my opinion. Trackhouse is going to be that other super team in the Cup Series in a few years. I think they're already there. I think they were in a unique situation, right? They had a lot of guys that used to work for Hendrick when they bought out the 42 ride, and they had a lot of guys, or Chip Ganassi Racing, and they had a lot of guys that work for RCR, right? And they've got the RCR Alliance. So I think they're in a unique position where they saw how two different teams went about their business, and they took the best parts from both of them, and now you're seeing the fruits of that knowledge. So I think they were in a unique situation with the new car coming in, and they have taken full advantage of it, and they've made the most of it. Parker Kligerman has proved that it's not rookies, it's also veterans, like last year when he was wrecked by Johnny Sauter. Well, yeah, that's true, for sure, on the aggressive driving. Johnny Sauter has always been an aggressive driver, so I don't know that necessarily, the playoffs or anything, factored into how Johnny Sauter drove Parker Kligerman. And Johnny Sauter, he even apologized for wrecking Haley Deegan the way he did in just that was a crazy moment there. And I like Johnny Sauter. I think Johnny Sauter is a heck of a race car driver, but he does not put up with a lot of junk, and he's got a short fuse, and he will drive through you if he feels like he has been slighted. So I don't think the playoffs or anything had anything to do with Johnny Sauter there doing that. But yeah, once one driver starts driving aggressive, veteran or anything, I'm not trying to put this on the young guys. I'm just saying the young kids coming up, when you're 15, you drive a lot different than when you're 33. So just is what it is. When you're 15, you're trying to pull video game moves because you think you can do them. When you're 30, you stop. Or in your 30s, you stop trying to pull video game moves because you've hit the wall and you realize that the risk is not worth the reward sometimes, because wrecking a race car doesn't feel good. Thoughts on Michael McDowell? Michael McDowell is having an absolutely killer season. I actually need to make a video on the guy. He had his first top 5 that's not at a super speedway this weekend at Sonoma. And just past that, I mean, his last 8 races, I think he's set a career. He's surpassed his career numbers for a season just in his last 8 or 10 races or something like that. I was reading. So good for him, man. I'm so glad for that whole team and Michael McDowell. I love to see a smaller team actually have a shot at things. Old home guy, what's up? Trent said you've come a long way on this platform. Do you see any plans to collaborate with other NASCAR-centric YouTubers? Like if they want to do something, I would be open to that. I don't know how it would work, but yeah, I'll whatever they want to do. It's cool. I like all the NASCAR. Yeah. So yeah, something I'd never even thought about. So yeah, that would be cool. But I like they all put in a lot of hard work. They do great stuff. And what I wanted to say there is they have all, for the most part, a lot of them have reached out and helped me. NRF has helped me behind. He sent me some messages and saying, "Hey, you don't have this or that set up." Danny B has been super supportive. Iceberg and Darian from Black Flags Matter, they've all been super supportive and given some good advice to me. So, and I hope I didn't forget any. And other people have reached out and helped me too. So I hate naming names because you're always going to forget somebody. So if I forgot you, I apologize. Going live is somewhat scary in that manner, but that's what's cool about the group is what I wanted to get at. They're super helpful, and I appreciate all of them, and super thankful that they helped me because this thing just got huge fast, or huge to me because I did it for a whole year, and not very many people watched, and then all of a sudden one day they did. So super just humbled and blessed, and man, thank all of y'all for being part of that. And yeah, let's not cry on live. Beast 1624, congrats on 6,000. Thank you, Beast. Let's see, try not to cry. Let's Justin Marks is a brilliant man. He and the others have both, I'm super impressed with Justin Marks. He had a vision, and a lot of people, when he came out with that vision for what he wanted Trackhouse to be, a lot of people were like, yeah, he's just blowing smoke. Well, he proved he's not blowing smoke, and I really like that he sticks up for his race car drivers. That has really impressed me about him. If I was a brand new fan just coming into NASCAR, without a doubt, Trackhouse would be my favorite team. Just like when I was coming up, RCR was that same type of team. They had their drivers back. It's very different from Dale Earnhardt and RCR, but there are similarities there. Whereas that whole team has got both of their drivers' backs. Whereas Richard Childress, and back then they were the Junkyard Gang, and later called the Flying Aces, they had Dale Earnhardt's back. They said, you drive however you want to drive, and you get wins, and we got your back on pit road. Nobody's going to mess with you. That Trackhouse very much reminds me of that, and I like it. And I hope Ross Chastain gets a little more car control. I don't want to see him drive through people, but I like the aggressiveness, going for opportunities that other people wouldn't think were an opening to pass. That has been very impressive to me. Ayrton Senna, I attribute it to Mario Andretti on one of my episodes, but it was actually Ayrton Senna who said, when you stop going for holes and openings, you are no longer a race car driver. Ayrton Senna said that, and I think Ross Chastain epitomizes that. And the whole Trackhouse team definitely embraces that. And I like that they've got Daniel Suarez, another guy that's super aggressive. He just doesn't get as much press because Ross Chastain's having a great year. He has not had the bad luck that Suarez has had. So they're doing a great job over there. And I think if I was a new fan, that would, like a younger fan, that would definitely be one of the teams that I gravitated towards. Elite Precision, what's up, buddy? Elite Precision 29. He's got a great channel. If you guys ever want to check that out, he does good stuff there. He made a what was the most recent video I watched? He was comparing Ernie Irvan to Ross Chastain, and that was a great comparison, and that's a great video. So if you haven't seen that, check that out. The reason I said 18 for Gibbs is because I think that's the Gibbs flagship. So okay. So that's a good point, T-Van. I think Ty Gibbs will eventually drive the 18, but I think when he first comes up to Gibbs, he will drive something else. But I think when Kyle Busch retires, he's going to be the guy that takes that 18 over, just like Austin Dillon drives the 3. For Richard Childress, you always are going to have that idea. So you're 100% right on that. He will eventually drive the 18, and Kyle Busch is definitely his role model. As far as race car driver, Ty Gibbs will for sure drive the 18 at some point, and without a doubt, they will figure out a way to get interstate batteries on there, because Ty Gibbs in the Cars Tour Series, whenever there was a throwback race, he always ran that 18 or 54 interstate batteries car as his throwback. That's his favorite scheme. So whenever Ty Gibbs eventually gets over to that 18, when Kyle Busch retires, look for it to be the number 18 interstate batteries car for at least one race, because I know that's going to happen. So there's some slight inside information, although it's not really inside if you follow late models. I missed the whole Sauter family driving in the series. Yeah, the Sauter family, man, they're wild, dude. Like they didn't put up with no BS, and they're just fun to watch. They all got great personalities. I got some friends that worked at RCR, and they talk about how much fun Johnny Sauter is when he's just hanging out with him and stuff like that. So that made me a big fan of his. Like I was already a fan of him, even back to like before he drove the number 30 in Cup for him. I just like the way he drives. He goes for it, and he's yeah. But he will run through people. So I understand if he's run through your driver and you might not like him. I understand that side of it too. Do you see McDowell going to SHR Penske? I think McDowell is a front row motorsports man for life. I think he will stay there. He's just super loyal, and he's going to be. I hate to make this comparison because he's not going to be as good as Mark Martin. But if you think about a guy that built up a team, Mark Martin with Roush completely built Roush Racing. And I see this McDowell is going to be the guy that completely builds Front Row Motorsports. Obviously, he's not going to have the wins and stuff like that Mark Martin had, but he's definitely the guy that has built Front Row Motorsports. And I think he'll always have that as like a tip of the cap to him. And he's a heck of a race car driver. His lack of wins is not because of a lack of ability. It's just he's building a team, and I think he's going to be a front row man for life. It would just be really weird to see them separate. But I don't know. He might go to another team. I just don't see it personally. Great show. Thank you, Greg Hall. My grandmother used to drive like a video game back in the day. She had a Griswold station wagon. Oh man, the family truckster. She was nuts. That's Rich L. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, not everybody gets that out of their system. There's definitely some older guys that still drive crazy. Jimmy Spencer comes to mind. One of the guys that stayed aggressive throughout his whole career. Dale Earnhardt definitely stayed aggressive throughout his whole career. So yeah. I just don't get why veterans and rookies are driving like every spot is like throwing slide jobs for 25th. This is Molten Rage talking about the aggressive driving again. Yeah, throwing slide jobs for 25th is stupid. So I agree with you on that. But at the same time, the drivers are getting unbelievable. The drivers are unbelievable at petty right now, or are getting unbelievably petty right now. Yeah, for sure they are. Like the stuff going on for 25th is getting aggressive and stupid. But it's always been like that. It's just I think it's amped up more this year than any year. It's just the way it's it's just the way it's going. Justin Marks needs to get in that third Trackhouse car and race at a road course again. I'd love to see Justin Marks pull the old Rick Hendrick. So Rick Hendrick did this one time too. He drove at a road course and retired early because he was I don't think he liked it or whatever. It was either got too hot for him or he was not impressed with his own driving, but he parked it either way. And but I think Justin Marks would do a better accounting of himself. Justin Marks would be really cool to see him get in that 91 car. He's also recently come out and said it won't just there's a possibility it won't just be international drivers, like if somebody like Jimmy Johnson wanted to come back. So I think that would be cool. I think if he could lure Carl Edwards out of retirement, that would be a cool one-off for Carl Edwards if he wanted to come back and do a race. There's so many people you can put in that car, and I know I've heard rumors that he's talking pretty heavily to McLaren, and some recent news came out that Lando Norris is interested in driving NASCAR. So it might not just be because obviously Daniel Suarez is the big one, but he might not be the only McLaren driver interested in driving that 91. But I'm super stoked. I'm ready for Kimi Räikkönen to get in that car. That will 100% be a diecast that I will buy. I've limited myself to 4 per year, so that will be one of the 4. So far, Kurt Busch is the only one I've bought this year. I had 2 others ordered, but they got canceled. Thanks a lot, Lionel. Let's see. The number 1 and the 99 have been fascinating to listen to on the scanner this year. I don't listen to the scanner stuff. That's just me. And yeah, I'll just keep that one in mind. I'm not going to tell you guys everything. I have a weird thing about listening to people on the scanner. Sometimes I don't even listen to my own team on the scanner, which I get in trouble for when I'm at late model tracks. But I got a weird thing about scanners because people say stuff that you sometimes don't want to hear, and so I tend not to listen to scanners. But if that's a good one to listen to, I might listen to them. I joined BB, said we get free burgers and fries. I wish I had it like that, buddy. If I ever get a sponsorship, though, I will from McDonald's or somebody. I will definitely try to get them to throw something like that in there. Like I don't know, it'd have to be something like if whoever Kurt Busch or Bubba Wallace finishes, whoever sponsors. I think those are the only two McDonald's guys. If they finish in the top 10, you get free fries, like Outback used to do with the Bloomin' Onion. They might still do it with the Bloomin' Onion. I don't know. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Natalie. Todd Gilliland is my favorite truck driver. I'd like to see Todd Gilliland move up. He'd be another front row guy. He's already moved up. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'd like to see him. What's up, man? I feel like he's going too many stakes in Cup. He's a rookie. Like Todd Gilliland, he's another one. He's sort of with the Harrison Burton deal. Just give him a couple years. Let him get his feet under him, and I think you'll see a lot of improvement. Just like you saw in the Truck Series, Todd Gilliland didn't come in and immediately dominate the Truck Series, but he got better and better, and he figured it out, and he got really good. So I think the same thing in the Cup Series, and he's with the right team. He's come up all the way from front row. He's going to be another front row guy for life, possibly, because I think they've just got good connection there. Let's see. I can't say much for Brad lately, but Chris Buescher has been giving that 17 a heck of a ride. That is for sure. LGB24. I can't say your name because that draws scrutiny on this particular format. So sorry about that. Yeah, Chris Buescher. I've seen what I wanted to see out of him. I never knew what he had because the car wasn't like great. Every car he's ever been in, he's sort of like the Neil Bonnet. Like he has the ability to go to a team when they're having their absolutely worst year. Neil Bonnet was notorious for that. He would go to these good teams and it would always be their off year when he got there. So that's sort of how I felt about Chris Buescher, but I've seen from him this year what I wanted to see from him. He's wheeling it. And I think as that team continues to progress, he will get better and better. Helio in the 91, that would be awesome. That's the one everybody's sleeping on, I think. Helio in the 91 is probably most likely definitely going to happen, and I would love to see it for the Daytona 500 because I think that's the race that Helio wants to race. But I think they're going to have a glut of guys that want to drive that Daytona 500, but I think Helio would have to be your first guy just because he's got so many Indy 500s. I would like to see him in the Daytona 500, but that's just me personally. I don't know what Trackhouse is thinking. I don't know. We have Byron versus Logano, Chastain versus Hamlin and Elliott, Briscoe versus Reddick, Larson versus Elliott. Which of these do you see as being payback in the playoffs? Denny Hamlin to Ross Chastain is almost, as far as Hamlin has said, is almost guaranteed it's going to happen. Byron versus Logano. I think Byron has taken the high road on that, and it just doesn't. I don't really see William Byron. And here's the deal: you don't have to be that guy. You don't have to be the guy that retaliates. William Byron is going to go the Jimmy Johnson approach and focus on a title and leave the drama behind him. And that's definitely a good approach. It worked for Jimmy Johnson for a long time. So there are all kinds of ways to get respect. Yeah. So I don't think Byron will pay it back. The Chase Briscoe versus Larson deal. Tyler Reddick deal. Sorry. I don't think anything will come of that because they seem to be super good friends. And Larson versus Elliott, I think that's just a competitive thing. I think those guys just really want to beat each other really bad. I don't think anybody will wreck anybody as far as that goes. I still don't think Larson wrecked him on purpose, but obviously huge bias as far as that goes. I think he just flared wide and didn't know he was there. But it is what it is. If you're a Chase Elliott fan, even if it is a mistake, you're still mad about it. So, yeah. I'm not saying that Larson won't do something like that. We clearly saw him do something like that on purpose to Justin Haley at the LA Coliseum. So I'm not saying Larson doesn't do stuff like that. I just didn't see that as being one of the times he did it. If you guys don't know who Kimi is, look up some of his team. Oh, that's for sure. So Kimi Räikkönen's got some of the best team radio of all time. Bawa is one of his most famous ones. Is there a market for old diecast to have some 90s stuff? For sure. Check out eBay. They sell that stuff depending on what it is. Sometimes it is very profitable to have some of that older stuff, home guy. Check out eBay, see what you've got, and then look it up and compare it to what other people are selling it for. Some of that stuff is very sought after. Some of it is not. So it just depends on what you got. BK has to be doing some experimental racing. I agree. I agree with you on that, Rich L. I think BK is looking for a crazy setup because I think he knows he has got to win to get in. So he's looking for this crazy experimental setup to get a killer win. And also it will just help them in the long run, because if they find something and he finds it, then, it'll help them for the playoffs if they get either car in. So I think he's doing some experimental racing myself. I've thought that ever since he got the 100-point fine. What's going on? I'm just joining. What's up, Dwayne Lawson? My wife listens to me on the scanner. I've been getting pretty good at drafting the UPS truck drivers here in town. I hear you, Rich L. Yeah. Dang it, I'm late. What's up, Bones? The drivers will be in the 51 truck for the rest of the season. I have no idea who's going to be in the 51 truck going forward. I haven't even looked at that. I know the 7 truck is just a rotation of Hendrick drivers and some other guys, but I haven't looked at who they're going to put in the 51. I don't know that they necessarily have anybody. But I'll tell you, I would love. I don't know what happened to Raphael Lessard. I think he's racing the Piney Series up in Canada now. I'd love to see him come back and race a couple truck races if he can get some funding. I know his funding ran out during everything that's going on right now, because I can't say that word either, unfortunately. Made his funding run out, and that's why he left the truck series. But I thought he was showing potential. I'd love to see him back in the 51, but I don't know who they've got lined up off the top of my head. I'll have to look that one up. Does Trackhouse have an ARCA team? If so, they can give some of these guys experience in the 91. I don't think they currently have an ARCA team, but they will have to possibly do some of that to get these guys a super speedway card if they want to race the Daytona 500, unless, which I don't see NASCAR giving Helio a bye, even though he's Helio. So you might, that would be cool too. You'd see Helio Castroneves in an ARCA car. That would be, that's going to be fantastic if that happens. Denny should focus more on the championship because his days are numbered. So yeah, that's probably been the biggest thing with me on Denny Hamlin. That's from Nathan Urick. That's been the biggest thing for me on Denny Hamlin. He is in his 40s, and he seems to easily get drawn into some off the track stuff or some stuff that really doesn't make a difference if you win or lose. Whereas where I was just talking about with William Byron, he's not worried about giving Joey Logano payback because he wants to focus on winning the championship, right? And Denny Hamlin, really hard worker. He's gotten better every single year he's been in Cup. And as dedicated and as focused as he is on getting better, sometimes you will see him get off on, if you play video games, it's like a side quest. He'll get completely focused on a side quest and somehow sometimes lose focus on the bigger picture. And I thought with him buying into a race car team with Michael Jordan, I was like, well, maybe this will be the year he's fully focused. We won't see maybe drama Denny. I don't think he's necessarily drama, but he's just involved. This year, he has been involved in drama, it seems like, every single week. It seems like I could make a video every single week about something going on that doesn't necessarily pertain to the racetrack. And one week I just said, like, I'm not making another video about Denny Hamlin. I don't know if you guys remember that episode, but I was like, I'm not talking about Denny Hamlin anymore this week. Because he was just like saying stuff on Twitter and just being crazy, and I was just like, I'm over the Denny Hamlin deal. But at some point, you have to realize that you've only got so much energy as a human being, and if you focus that energy more so on winning a championship and being focused on a championship than some of this just drama, just because he thinks it's fun. And I know he does it because he thinks it's fun. It's not like he's super focused on it. He's doing it because he thinks it's fun and funny. But like at some point, that stuff does factor in where you spend time doing that. You could have been spending some time being more focused. But that's just my take. Denny Hamlin's won a lot more races than I'll ever think about. So he's doing his thing, but that's just my take on it. I'd like to see him a lot more focused for sure. See, I have lots of 90s and 2000s senior and junior diecasts. Those are pretty popular. But as far as diecasts selling on eBay, like you'd be amazed at which ones are like there's just like these rare. It's like trading cards. There's these rarities that people are looking for. So you just never know which one's the rare one to have. But a lot of the senior stuff always goes for pretty good money usually. Can you show us one of your diecasts? I see you have a few. Yeah. So like here's sort of like the RCR Richard Petty collection. I got this Alex Bowman one right here because it was a throwback to Tim Richmond. Tim Richmond, my dad's best friend, Billy Chandler, he was a tire guy for Hendrick for a long time, and he did the tires for Tim Richmond and Jeff Gordon. And then he went to Bill Davis and did stuff for Ward Burton too, tires for Ward Burton. So he worked with a lot of guys, and with one of the first race car hats I ever got, I think it was the first race car hat, was a Hendrick Motorsports race car hat. I was a Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty fan, so that didn't change that, but I did wear that hat. But the second hat I got was a T.G. Shepherd Folgers hat, and it was just a really cool hat. It was burgundy and it had like gold stitching. So I became a Tim Richmond fan on the side, and so that's the story behind that Alex Bowman 88 Tim Richmond diecast. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a way to do a diecast show where I just talk about some of the cool diecasts I got. But yeah, that's probably one that's got a story behind it that I can talk about there. This Jimmy Johnson throwback one is because I used to watch Jimmy Johnson race those dirt trucks or whatever, trophy trucks, and I had no idea it was the same Jimmy Johnson. So I was like, man, I love that truck. I love that color scheme. And then basically one day it clicked when he went to Darlington and did that as his throwback. I was like, holy crap, that was the same Jimmy Johnson. I don't know why it didn't click for me, but it didn't click until that moment. So I was like, holy crap. I was like, I actually pulled for Jimmy Johnson without realizing I was pulling for Jimmy Johnson. I like Juan Pablo. I like JPM to come race for Trackhouse. I think that'd be an awesome, like especially on a road course. Juan Pablo can still get it done. I'd love to see him in the 91. I think that's definitely an option. Rich L said, I got so many diecast cars I could open my own store. I feel you, brother. Been collecting since the early 90s. That's basically the range that I started collecting too. I've got like a few hand-me-downs from the 70s and 80s from like my grandpa and dad and stuff, but all the stuff I collected was definitely 90s. Let's see. NBC booth can get very screechy when the boys get excited. So yeah, my mom has a problem telling Jeff Burton and Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s voice apart. I watch most races over there. I go over Sunday, eat lunch with my mom, and watch the race most weekends. So she has a problem telling their voices apart. But yeah, they both get sort of excited and high pitched at the same time sometimes. So I can see that being a definite criticism. Do you think Kyle Busch will stay with JGR next year? Oh yeah, Kyle Busch he's going to be a JGR Toyota lifer in my opinion. Don't worry about the headlines. That's I've always thought that was posturing on Kyle Busch's part to get the contract done. I don't think he's even holding out for maximum money at this point. I think he just wants certain things and they're just not lining up. But I think he's using it as a negotiation tactic. Will Matt see? I can't. That's why I stopped. I'm glad he's not in Cup anymore for that reason. But I wish he was in Cup. I don't want to say it like that. Will Matty D finally win in NASCAR? I can't say his last name for nothing. I think he'll get a truck win eventually. He's actually, if you look at the Rackley War team, they started off and they had a lot of bugs to work out. With Timothy Peters and Josh Berry driving it last year, but Matt DiBenedetto has raised that team up quite a bit. Just having one consistent driver and them having a year under their belt, I think they'll eventually get that team to be contending for wins and eventually contending for the playoffs if they stay together. So yes, I think he will win in trucks eventually, and I hope he gets another shot one day at Cup. The Wheaties All-Star, that is a pretty good one to have for sure, X-Dude, as far as diecast go. Listening to Jeff Burton sounds like Yosemite Sam and Heat. Oh, man. Yeah, he can get pretty excited. Olympic All-Star is a good one. Talladega Race Win is a good one. And the 98 Daytona one, that's going to probably bring your most money right there. Joseph Wooten, I think Haley Deegan gets no dang on respect. And that's how drivers drive nowadays. So the Haley Deegan thing, that's complicated because I'm not trying to throw the team under the bus because I think David Gilliland Racing does a great job. But I think with any multi-truck team, multi-car team, we saw for a long time the 20. Joe Gibbs Racing dominated for a right good while the last 10 years until recently. Now Hendrick's dominating again. But you notice that 20 car was never quite as good as the other cars, right? So I think Haley Deegan is in that situation where she just happens to be in the truck that particular team is not performing to the same level that the other DGR trucks are performing for various reasons. Like there's been a couple of races where they can't even get it through tech. Like there's just been stupid stuff, sort of like 2311, like pit stops, just like stuff that's in their control, but for whatever reason that team is not controlling it the way they should, but the other DGR teams do. So for that reason, long way to get to this point, but she's running back there with guys that drive like squirrels. So she is having to deal with that, and that's part of the reason. I don't think it's necessarily there is a respect issue to it because just being in the late model deal, there nobody wants to get passed by the girl. You'll hear that a lot. So there is that aspect to it, but there is also she's just racing back there with guys that are 25th and stuff like that, and there's a reason that they're back there racing in 25th. It's not necessarily disrespect. She's just back there with guys that are over driving. And so it's a little bit of each. There's some disrespect for sure, and she's also driving with guys that drive over their head. You should highlight more of your diecasts. Pick one once a week and highlight it. I have a bunch too. Been collecting since '85. That's probably a good idea, Daryl. I will. I'll try to figure out how to work that in. Maybe a Sunday fun day thing I can get going here in the future. A couple comments about Montoya hitting the Titan air dryer, jet dryer. Yeah, that was definitely that was just crazy. Burnt a hole in the track. That was insane. Do I iRace? No, my Wi-Fi is not good enough for it. I tried it for a little while. I was able to practice, but then when I actually went into an actual race, my Wi-Fi kicked me out. I used to drive a lot on Forza Tacoma too. I used to drive a lot of Forza back in the day. They got a new Forza coming out in 2023, so I might reappear there. But for whatever reason, my iRacing Wi-Fi does not work, but my Xbox, or I don't have anything anymore, but I used to have an Xbox and a PS2 or PS3. But yeah, they that works. I can do that stuff. It gets super laggy, but iRacing just for whatever reason wouldn't work. So I couldn't iRace, but I was pretty excited from practicing, just doing the practice laps in iRacing. That was pretty fun. If you take all the assists off on Forza, I really didn't see much difference in them though. But that's just me. A lot of people will disagree with that. I think they're both great video games or simulators, whatever you want to call them. I don't really get super cheesed off about somebody saying it's a video game because you're still learning racecraft on them. It's just a different type of racing. I don't look at it as any different than racing in a different series. Like a guy races a mini stock, that's a different series than a late model. You can be good at mini stock and not be good in the late model. You can be good at iRacing and not be good at driving something else. So I never got that whole argument about is iRacing real racing. I mean, it's real racing, but it's not necessarily in a real, you're not in a car. It's just a different kind of racing. And there's people that are good at it and they can translate that to race cars. And there's people that are good at it and they will be absolutely terrible in a race car. But I do think it's cool. Recently, a guy named Blake McCandless, he does the announcing at Ace Speedway. He's a big iRacer. He recently was given a chance. I don't know if you guys used to watch the Windshield Deep podcast or the Windshield Deep. They used to do a thing on Facebook Live. They would go to the racetrack, but that guy, he put him in a limited late model, and Blake ran pretty good in it for his first. He's made 2 starts in it now, so it's cool to see people from iRacing get chances in real race cars. I hopefully in the future that is a path because it's more affordable to race, and if you show race on a video game or iRacing, and if you show something in that, hopefully somebody will see that and want to put you in a real car. And I would like to see that be a pipeline because you can get more interesting drivers into the sport that way. Let's see. For a while, when Junior and Burton first started in the booth, I thought there was a cat fight going on. Junior finally calmed down. Yeah, they like to scream, but it's all good. Junior, he has gotten better as an announcer every single year, so he definitely puts in the work as well. And Jeff Burton is he's a veteran. He's been doing it for a while. So, but they both, when they get excited at the same time, it gets kind of crazy. The most infamous one being slide job. I think guys driving like squirrels. Yeah. So that's what we call them in late models. Don't get back there with the squirrels, T-Van. So the qualifying is a big deal in late models, and typically like run a good lap. You don't want to be back there with the squirrels. You'll hear that. You'll hear that a lot. How long with Bubba does Bubba keep this ride? Bubba will probably keep that ride until the sponsor money stops coming in. So as long as he gets some good finishes and a win here or there, I think the sponsors will stay with him. Bubba Wallace is funding. He's got a situation that most drivers don't have, where he's got more funding probably than he knows what to do with. So as long as he's got the funding coming in and can keep the funding coming in, he will have a ride at 2311 or wherever he wants to go. In my personal opinion, do you think Deegan would do better in the Busch Series rather than trucks? I think Deegan's situation is she needs to get with the right crew chief. She needs to get with the right team, and nothing against the crew chief she's with, but you see combinations work, and some combinations don't. Like Larry McReynolds worked really well with Davey Allison. Larry McReynolds with Dale Earnhardt Sr. wasn't as good as he was with Davey Allison. They just didn't click. They're both really good, right? So I'm not taking anything away from Haley Deegan's crew chief, but I think she needs to find a crew chief she clicks with, and that's just a big deal. Chase Elliott even said when he was interviewing Alan Gustafson to be his crew chief, he said the biggest thing about him being my crew chief is he needs to believe in me. And I think, and you heard that with Suarez this weekend, I'm finally with a team that believes in me. And I think that's the biggest thing. Haley Deegan needs to get with a team that believes in her as a driver and is going to put the resources in to make her as good as she can be, whatever that is. So, which we don't know yet, right? Like she's super young in the game. So we don't know how good she can be. And she needs to get with a team, though, that believes in her and is going to put forth whatever. I don't know necessarily how to explain it other than it's like a team chemistry, team gelling, and part of that gelling and chemistry is you believe in your driver. So she needs to definitely keep that all together. Get somebody to believe in her and get that team to gel up. Bubba is not a good. So that's like a lot of people don't think Bubba's a good driver, and a lot of people don't think Haley is a good driver, and they think that they only have those rides because of who they are. So, I mean, it is what it is. There's a lot of people that only have a ride because of who they are. Ty Gibbs, would he be where he's at if he wasn't born into a situation? Life is what it is. It's not fair. People have rides for the reason they have rides, but once you get the ride, you have to do something with it. So we will have to see if they do something with it. Delmar Kaufman, I got the same shirt you got, King 43. It's a great shirt, man. I appreciate it. I like your style, Delmar. Let's see. What's up, man? Late to the party. Keep up the good work. I depend on you to keep me updated on the NASCAR news. Thanks, Stevie Ray. I appreciate it. Let's see. Bubba was a good truck driver and used to be a fan, but I'm not now. A lot of people feel that way for sure. Doggone, I can't remember what his crew chief's name was off the top of my head, but he's actually the crew chief on the other DGR truck. And they seem to have a good chemistry. Even when he came over that last year, Bubba with Petty, and that's what I'm talking about. It's all you got to have a guy that believes in you and knows how to communicate with you. Because one guy's 10 tight is another guy's 5 tight. So the crew chief driver relationship is probably bigger this year, and these in the last 5 years probably than it's ever been. So I think that's definitely for sure probably a bigger deal. So I'm going to stop talking about Bubba and Haley now, just because people get so passionate about those particular topics. So I'm just going to move on. Just got here tuning in from New Hampshire. What's up, Michael Curtis? Good to have you, brother. Late to the stream, but congratulations. Thanks, Miguel Torre. Is the race is the next wow, is the race next weekend worth going to? Whenever you can go to a race, I think you should go to a race, in my opinion, because you never know what's going to happen, right? Like a lot of people, old home guy asked that. A lot of people didn't go to the Coke 600 because they were like, man, that thing's always a long race and it's boring. Well, the Coke 600 ended up being one of the best finishes and one of the best overall races of the season. So don't listen to what people tell you that a race is going to be boring or whatever, because you never know if that's going to be like the greatest race of all time or not. So I think whenever you can go to a racetrack, and you should go to a race for sure. Let's see. Will Matty D's truck diecast be available? I think that is one that is going to get produced. They've been canceling a lot of them here recently, though, so I don't know. I would like to announce that Flash Racing Cup Series is almost over. This is a diecast series that I own. So Flash Racing, there you go. Check him out if you're into diecasts, and that series is almost over, so check him out. Opinions on Brett Moffitt. I love him. I understand he's an underrated champion of the sport. Yeah, Brett Moffitt's a complicated one, right? The guy can drive, but he doesn't seem to stay at an organization for a long period of time. And make of that what you will, but for whatever reason, he cannot stay with the same team. He's put up wins and stuff like that. His talent is not in question. You have to, and this is just total speculation, I have no idea, but you have to start to wonder, is he a guy like Kyle Busch that rubs people the wrong way with what he says on the radio? Kurt Busch, early in his career before he chilled out, they went through a lot of crew chiefs when they got to the cup level, because a lot of people, and to get back to the radio, a lot of people didn't appreciate how they talked on the radio. So you have to wonder, is that an issue with Brett Moffitt, or is it something else? But it's definitely not an issue with the talent. We know the guy can drive. So I don't know, but he has bounced around a lot, and I agree with you. He is a heck of a talent. Yeah, I don't know. Nothing compares to seeing a race in person. TV never does it justice. That is 100% accurate, X-Dude, too. So I watched the Martinsville race, and a lot of people were like, that's the most boring race. And I even said on my show it was a boring race. But I also said that when you're there in person, it's never as boring. Now the weather was miserable. Gosh, that's some of the most rough weather I've sat through in a long time, probably since Rockingham in the 90s. But a race in person is better for this reason, and if you say nothing else about it alone, you can watch whatever you want to watch on that racetrack. You don't have to be focused on what they have the camera on. So I know they said passing was not great at Martinsville, But I was going back through the field, and before William Byron got the lead, I was watching William Byron work traffic, and William Byron did a great job. And Austin Dillon, Austin Dillon was working traffic like nobody's business. And Ross Chastain was another one. He probably, not a lot of people even probably talked about him. I don't know, but I was watching Ross Chastain just use pit strategy and pick off position after position, and he would occasionally pass somebody. And I don't know what they covered on the actual TV broadcast, but watching a race in person, I'm just picking that one because I was there, and they said it was the most boring race of the year. But being at that race, aside from the weather, I was thoroughly entertained because you can watch what you want to watch. So I was pretty stoked about that. And so going to a racetrack, even if the race is boring, you can watch what you want to watch. Now that being said, I went to a race at Rockingham that Kyle Petty led every single lap, I think, or close to it, and Ernie Irvan was second, and they were the only two in their own zip code because Kyle Petty just put it on them, and you could have looked through the field that whole race and there was no racing. So sometimes you just go to one that is not good. So there is that counterpoint to what I said as well. So, but going to the racetrack is always fun because you're always going to see something there walking around that you wouldn't see on TV, and it's just cool. It's just really fun. I like being at the racetrack. I'm there every weekend, and I'm still doing it. So it's just fun to go to a racetrack. So and that being said, it's actually I know I do Cup Series stuff, but it's always actually more fun to go to a local short track or a local dirt track. They're just as much fun, if not, in my opinion, way more fun. Because the drivers run scripted. You never know what you're going to see. I don't know if everybody's seen the old Bowman Gray deal where the guy suplexed the dude off the top of the roof. So you never know what you're going to get when you go to a race, and you never know what you will see. So if you get a chance to go to a race, always go to a race. So yeah, going to one live is good. I'd like to see Chris Buescher in the 17, who was beating on the door for a win. I think he will win soon and will start being a weekly contender. Mark, if they give him a car like they had this weekend, he will definitely get that win. I saw from him this year what I wanted to see from him, and he is a great race car driver at this level. And nothing compares to seeing a race in person. TV never does it justice, that's for sure. How can they fix Texas Motor Speedway? Give it the Atlanta treatment. That's definitely one option. Another option would be to make it a short track and make it a dirt track that can accommodate a Cup Series race. That way, you've always got a dirt track that is Cup ready, so they don't have this excuse that there's no dirt track that can support a Cup crowd. So I would like to see that happen, which is a fair argument. But I mean, I feel like some of these places could build up their dirt track to accommodate a Cup crowd. I think if they got a Cup date, that they would definitely do that. So I'd like to see a dedicated dirt track for the Cup cars if they're going to run on dirt, which they seem to be dead set on doing. So shame, best of the best no longer make it to Cup. Money has always been a big deal, but yeah, so I agree with that. That's my big deal with this. They've got the Rev Racing Drive for Diversity program. Another component I would like to see added in to that program. They can keep it how it is now, but I would like to see an economic deal added to that, because I think probably the biggest problem in racing now is not necessarily the product on the track or anything like that. But if you remember the 90s and 80s, the reason people got super into those drivers is because they were relatable. They were watching blue collar workers that drove race cars like themselves. Harry Gant was building houses and putting roofs on. Dale Earnhardt basically was a mechanic, before he became a race car driver. Like, these guys were relatable because they had regular jobs and stuff like that, and so you could relate to them because they gave off this "hey, they're just like us" impression. Whereas you've got a lot of drivers now through no fault, and look, like, everybody wants to give their kids the best. So, like, if you make it and you've got the money, there's I'm not, you're born into the situation you're born in. I'm just saying there are fewer rich people in the world, so it's harder to relate to rich people that race. So when we see a guy that comes from a blue collar background, it's a lot easier to pull for him. There's a reason a lot of people give Ross Chastain a pass, because he's a farmer. A lot of people can relate to, a guy being a farmer and putting in the work that way. So he gets a pass for some of his aggressive driving because of stuff like that. So, and that's the biggest deal. If they put a economic component in where you give people who don't have the means to race a chance to race, I think that would help the sport too. Because if you get, obviously, you want to see somebody that looks like you race. That's a big component of it. But also a bigger deal is you want to see somebody from a similar background as you, because it makes it more relatable to you. You can always be like, well, I'm not a race car driver, but I could see this guy went through the same struggle as me, and he became a race car driver. That was always a big deal. When I was growing up, there was 3 guys I always looked up to. Dale Earnhardt, Richard Petty, and Michael Jordan. And the reason I looked up to all those guys wasn't because of how they looked. It was because all of those guys were successful guys, and they came from North Carolina like I did. So, and it's crazy that Michael Jordan's in racing now. But I always looked to them because I was like, well, if they came from North Carolina and they did good at what they do, then I can do good at what I do. So that's always what I took away from them, and all of their backstories where they worked hard and they got better. You can read all the propaganda, those little propaganda books you got at the school book fair. So I bought all those. Every year I would get at the book fair, I'd get like a Garfield book and either a Michael Jordan, Dale Earnhardt, or a Richard Petty little fan book or a poster or something like that. Or you remember the old calendars? Used to have the old Richard Petty calendars and stuff like that. So I think that's a big aspect that the sport is missing. Drivers being relatable will definitely help boost the sport. Will Eric Jones be back with Petty in 2023? I think they're working on it and putting it together. And I think he definitely wants to be back. A lot of people have mentioned him as being possibly one of the guys that could go back to Toyota. I don't think he wants to go back to Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota. I think he's out to prove a point, and I think he wants to prove that point with Petty. So it seems to be a good fit for them, and they're doing well. So hopefully they can keep it going. Charlie Tuna, good show. Congrats on 6K. Thank you, my man. My boys are hungry. Time to make some donuts. See you next time. All right. Yep. Good to see you, Charlie Tuna. Thanks for tuning in. Congratulations on 6K. Thanks, Jordan Dry. I can't read today. I want to see NASCAR update Iowa and go back since they own the track. Iowa's a good track, and I wish they would go back to it. I think eventually we're going to see a point in Cup racing where tracks can't have 2 dates unless it's like a Daytona or somewhere that's like really just super special, super unique. So Talladega, Daytona. I think that's also somebody asked me what I see in 10 years in NASCAR. Eventually there will be very few, if any, other than maybe Daytona and Talladega, 2-date tracks. I think everybody should be a 1-date track. That way it opens it up so you can take the sport to so many other places. But Iowa is definitely a good track, and I would like to see them go back there as well. I do agree with you on that. Let's see. You are a true NASCAR fan. I love the content you provide. It's nice to hear you discuss it as a YouTube video creator and a fan of racing. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Tacona, too. I appreciate that. I do my best, and I'll try to keep it going here. Kevin McNamara. I looked up to Bobby Allison growing up for sure. He's another, and that's another good point. Like these guys in early NASCAR were just far more relatable, and I think if you could get more relatable drivers in NASCAR, that would super help the sport more than any of these other technical gimmicks that they're trying. At the end of the day, you get invested in any sport because of the backstory of the players playing. So they've got to get some drivers in there that are relatable, which is easier said than done. So I don't know how you go about that, but at some point you have to go back to people earning a ride as opposed to just sticking people in these cars because they've got money or they've got money behind them. So at some point the model needs to be flipped. How you do that? off the top of my head, I don't know, other than you got to talk to sponsors and explain to them. It would be better for you to have a guy that's earned his way up here representing your product than this guy that can pay half the bill himself. So I don't know. What part of NC are you from? Fayetteville. Delmer Kaufman from Fayetteville. I am from. Let's see. I was born in Durham, but I moved around. I've moved around North Carolina a lot. I spent a lot of time in Boone for a little while. I was in Boone, North Carolina, and then I spent a lot of time in a place called Murfreesboro, North Carolina. But now I am currently just south of Virginia in North Carolina. So, yeah, Murfreesboro and Durham. Probably I spent the most time in those two areas. If you've never heard of Murfreesboro, North Carolina, don't feel bad. It's very small. It's a very small area. If and when Dodge returns, would Petty be home along with the Stewart Haas? I don't know if Petty makes that jump again. I know he made the jump the first time, and I know he is a Plymouth Dodge man. I think he would be enticed to make the jump. I think Dodge would have to offer them something. But also, you've got to remember that I can't think of the guy's name. The owner of GMS, he is making a good bit of those decisions too. So they would have to put something on the table for him to really sweeten the deal. I think the team that goes with Stewart Haas is going to be Rick Ware Racing. I think that will be the other Dodge team. And I've always thought that, and I've always thought that Honda was focused on Ganassi. And when Ganassi sold out to Trackhouse, I think Honda will focus their efforts on Trackhouse being their team. But that's no inside knowledge as far as the Trackhouse deal goes. That's just me speculating and thinking. Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here. Maybe about 5 or 10 more minutes, and I'm going to wrap it up because I got to go eat some food. I'm getting kind of hungry. Let's see. Our Diecast series has been going to Bowman Gray, Slinger, and even at North Wilkesboro. I like it, Flash Racing. I like all those tracks. Bowman Gray, really fun track. Slinger is on my bucket list. I would love to go. And North Wilkesboro, always a great track. So yeah, for sure. I like all those. Kevin McNamara said, I've been on an eBay binge lately. I got a Bobby Allison and a Tim Richmond. That's rad, dude. Signed JH jacket for $35. That is awesome, dude. I like that. Good pickup, Kevin McNamara. Should Ty Dillon be replaced? Delmar Coffin. That is a good question. I am probably the biggest Ty Dillon fan. Not the biggest Ty Dillon fan, but I'm a big Ty Dillon fan. So I'm a big supporter of his. But that being said, the results are not there. I don't know why the results aren't there, but you can't consistently be 8 to 10 spots behind Eric Jones, as good as Eric Jones is. But I would like to see him get another year to sort of see if he can close that gap. But if not, then I think the writing's on the wall. You got to replace him with somebody, especially he's in an especially tough spot because you've got all these young guys in the Xfinity series that are looking ready. So maybe one more year, but after that, you gotta pick up one of those guys and see if they can do something in there. Because there's tons of guys. Brett Moffitt be a good fit for him. You know, put a Petty legacy driver in the 42. He's definitely got a lot of talent. I could see that move happening if they get rid of Ty Dillon, but I hope Ty Dillon gets at least another year, and I hope he makes the most of it and sort of closes that gap between him and Eric Jones. But there's definitely a huge discrepancy in performance between those two cars, and it could also be another thing, like I said, where one car just for whatever reason isn't running as good as the other car, like we saw with the 20 car for a long time at JGR, just didn't run as good as the 18 car and the 11. So, yep, for sure. Tons of awesome memorabilia. Finds at really low prices. Just got to be on the lookout. That's for sure. Kevin McNamara, that is for sure. You got to find that right auction to get the right gear. Ricky Rudd was the 15 when he first raced Cup. Yeah, he was probably pretty young. I didn't know he was that young, but that's pretty awesome. Ricky Rudd was a guy I never fully appreciated because the first race I ever went to as a little kid was North Wilkesboro, and Ricky Rudd and Dale Earnhardt got into it for the lead, and Rudd bumped Earnhardt. Earnhardt bumped him back and spun him, and they put Dale Earnhardt to the back of the pack because he spun him. And Rusty Wallace ended up winning that race because him and Jeff Bodine traded, which was an awesome finish. I think it was like 1988, Holly Farms 400 at Wilkesboro. But I never fully appreciated Ricky Rudd because I hated him forever because of that. So, yeah, he took. I wanted to see Dale Earnhardt win in person, and he took that opportunity, in my opinion, away from me. But Earnhardt probably had a sixth place car that day. How he got the lead. The junkyard dogs are flying aces or whatever must have got him out there because he was holding on to it for dear life, and he wasn't gonna let nobody pass him, that's for sure. But it was a good race. If you get a chance to check that one out on YouTube, 1988 Holly Farms 400, I think was the name of it. Just look up whichever race Rusty Wallace won at Wilkesboro. That's the race. Apple, Greenville, South Carolina. I never saw it on the Big Island of Hawaii. Oh man, Hawaii! I'd love to go there one time. I've been here for several years. Missed my racing. Why does NASCAR never mention Louise Smith? She's the first true lady of NASCAR. That's a good question. They do these big initiatives to talk about getting women into the sport, but they don't ever talk about you hardly ever see them talk about the women who have been in the sport. So I don't know. Like they, why do they not, talk about Wendell Scott hardly ever, unless they're talking about Bubba Wallace, So like, I don't know. NASCAR has not done a great job of promoting groundbreaking drivers of different backgrounds from their past. So I don't know what's up with that. They've made a lot of documentaries on other stuff, so I would like to see some documentaries about that. Brett Moffitt is better than Jeb Burton. He's at least not a petty guy. At least he's not a petty guy. He races with respect and doesn't get into drama with young guys over BS. Yeah, I agree with you there. I just the only point I was making, I'm trying to figure out why he keeps, as far as Brett Moffitt goes, I'm trying to figure out why he keeps bouncing from place to place with the amount of talent that he's got. I just don't get it. And the Jeb Burton, Noah Gregson thing, that was, man, if ever somebody should have put away the Twitter thumbs that day, man, he should have stayed off Twitter that day for sure. Said a lot of stuff that he did apologize for, by the way, and backed away from. Jeb Burton's a good dude, just was not a good day for him on Twitter. But Brett Moffitt, I'm just trying to figure out why he's got a lot of talent. And I think at one point on Door Bumper Clear, they talked about it's just a sponsorship deal. It's not anything about him, but it does make me wonder. Like, is he somehow difficult to get along with? But it could just also be a sponsor deal. Like he just can't get sponsor money. So I don't know. Will Allgaier go back up to Cup? He raced Cup a couple times for Spire in the '77, but full time, I don't know. That's hard to say. The Rooster, Ricky Rudd, yeah. Like I just never fully appreciated him because of that one. One race, one race. I stopped pulling for the guy forever. But I did love that Quaker State car though. I love that 26 Quaker State, Kenny Bernstein, King Racing or whatever it was called back then. NASCAR would never put someone to the back for aggressive driving nowadays. Yeah, I agree, but I'd love to see him do it because it would make for cleaner racing. In my opinion, if you could still do the bump and run, but you couldn't just completely dump a guy, like it would add some level of consequence for driving like that. Earnhardt eventually took Ricky's ride. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, Ricky Rudd was originally in the 3, FYI. Or what was it? I think it was Earnhardt was in there. Then Richard Childress told him, "We're just not the right team for you," and they brought Rudd in, and Earnhardt went and raced for somebody for a year. Then they got back together. So that was a cool story. I have to brush up on that, but I think that's how it went down. But yeah, for at least 1 year, Ricky Rudd did drive the 3 car. Do you think Ryan Blaney will make it to the playoff points unless he wins a race? Whew, that's a good question, man. 4 spots with 10 races to go. There, I could easily see 4 more different winners winning. But I think if that happens, I think Ryan Blaney would be one of the guys that wins to get in. So I don't think there are 4. I guess that's the best way to answer the question. I don't think there's 4 different winners, and one of them is not Ryan Blaney. Uh, but he's definitely the most comfortable in points. If anybody is just going to get in on points, it would definitely be him because he's got about 100 and some point lead over the other guys. Let's see. Other than Danica, yeah. Well, I mean, they covered Danica so good. Her documentary is not needed right now, but maybe in 10 years you would need a Danica documentary because although she didn't really compete the way she wanted to in the Cup Series, she was important in the fact that she got like a ton of little girls interested in racing. So she didn't do as good as she wanted to do, but she did at least get girls more interested in racing because they were like, "Hey, I'm a girl. I've never seen a girl race." Well, now they've seen a girl race, they know it's possible, so they can race too. I don't think you have Haley Deegan without Danica Patrick, so uh, it's just the way it goes. One step, each driver takes another step that the other one didn't. So it's cool to see. The more the merrier. The more people that like the sport, the better. So it is a good thing that she raced, but she definitely had an attitude that a lot of people did not appreciate. Patty Mawise is another good one. Mark Wachowski, Janet Guthrie, and Patty Mawise. Janet Guthrie does have a 60 for 60 on ESPN that was actually pretty good. I think that was back when I can't remember the guy's name, but that's back when he was still doing the 60 for 60s or the 30 for 30, 60 for 60. The 30 for 30s is a 60-minute show, I think is what I got screwed up on. 30 for 30 with Janet Guthrie. That one's actually a pretty good one. Let's see, Justin Haley, if he stayed, but right now my favorite driver is Jeremy Clements, such a cool guy. Jeremy Clements has a huge fan base. He is definitely a fan favorite. Justin Haley is underrated. I think if he just keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to figure it out eventually. He reminds me of a Martin Truex type driver where he just keeps getting better and better. If he stays there long enough, he'll eventually put it together and he'll be a force to be reckoned with. You saw that in the Xfinity series. The longer he stayed in there, the more he figured it out. Bud Moore didn't have the funding for Earnhardt, and Ford at the time wasn't spending big bucks in NASCAR. Yeah, that's for sure. That's one of the hand-me-downs I've got. I do have a 15 little pullback Ertel number 15 Dale Earnhardt diecast. I do. I remember it because I read about it, but I don't like remember it. But I do remember Bud Moore didn't have the funding, so he went back to Childress, I believe. Can you do a vid on the best video games to do oval racing? Everyone only thinks there's iRacing, but there are a lot of other ones. Assetto Corsa is awesome. Project Cars 2 is really big. AMS2, I never did that one, and I have not messed with BeamNG. So I will have to check those out. But yeah, I could do a video game one for sure. That would be a good video to do. Danica kept wall filters busy. Yeah, she did not translate her IndyCar abilities or open wheel abilities over to Cup as well as she wanted to, and there are a multitude of reasons for that. She didn't spend enough time driving in the Xfinity series or any other lower series to learn that car control. Shauna Robinson's another good one. She was actually on the Dale Jr. download. Delmer Kaufman talking about her. Yeah, Shauna Robinson's another good story. So check out that Dale Jr. download with her. That was a really good one. Landauer is going to do an Xfinity race in Loudon. That's pretty cool. Loudon is a underrated track. I don't think a lot of people. I wish they would just give the Cup cars a ton of horsepower when they go to New Hampshire, because that would just be that would help that track out a lot. But for sure. All right, that's about it. I'm gonna wrap it up here. Take these last two down here. Mark Wachowski, Shauna was a good story, that's for sure. Danica can return to racing the 7 truck. That wouldn't be a bad deal. I would like to see her because I know she didn't go out the way she wanted to go out. So maybe her making a couple starts might be in the cards. Let's see, Jeremy Clements last year made me a fan of him. He was able to make a mediocre ride and get it into the playoffs. I agree with you, Moulton. I think that's why he's got a lot of fans. I think that's the same reason Kaz Grala has got a lot of fans as well, because he did something very similar back when he was able to run full time. Kaz Grala is another guy. Kaz Grala and Parker Kligerman, I'd love to see him get a full time ride somewhere with somebody. I can't figure out why they can't get funding. They bring a lot to the table. What are your thoughts on RFK so far this year? RFK is turning it around, and I think they will be good. I think Brad is in R&D test mode. That's why he's running a lot worse than the 17 car. So of Chris Buescher. And so I think right about this time of the season is when you're going to see RFK turn it around. Whether they get into the playoffs, I don't know. Bud Moore told Earnhardt to go find another ride. He was tearing up his car, and Earnhardt went back to RCR. The rest is history. That's for sure. I've heard that too. Yeah, so I am going to end it here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on. I appreciate every single one of you. And like I said, I'm going to try to make this an every Tuesday thing. So I don't know if we'll go 2 hours every Tuesday, but we'll make it a Tuesday thing. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. And when I started this deal, I never ever thought I'd see 6,000. I never thought I'd see 1,000. So I'm very humbled, and I'm just very thankful for all you guys hanging out with me. And so I'm not going to cry, so I'm going to end it now. So thanks for your time. Peace.